It is election year 2014. It's going to be a big year. It started already. The campaigning began at the very beginning of the year, essentially. And it's not going to let up. It's only going to get heavier. We're all going to get tired of it at some stage, even the politicians, but it will not. It will be relentless. Let's put it that way. Prime Minister John Key, good morning.
Good morning, Leighton.
Off the back of that, how do you anticipate this year's going to unfold?
Well, I think you summarised it pretty well, actually. It'll be intense, it'll be busy, it'll be gnarly at times. Some of it will be pathetic, a lot of it hopefully will be visionary, but in the end, it'll be like it always is with an election, a contest of ideas. And, you know, for us, actually, it's a relatively simple formula, I think. We're going to go there and say, this is what we've achieved over the last 5 years. This is what we inherited. This is what we've done. It was a global financial crisis, a Christchurch earthquake, a whole lot of other things. By the way, on many stats from the economy to health, we're doing much better than most other countries around the world. Give us another 3 years and these are the other things that we want to do. So it's a combination of track record and future goals.
All right. So you've started the year by saying you could work with New Zealand First and Winston Peters. Is that a case of necessity or is that a case of reality?
Bit of both. There's no point in me saying that there's not a degree of it might be necessary, because I think that people would see through that, and I think it would be very disingenuous. The reality is, in 2008, I never thought he was going to come with us. Whether we ruled him in or out was really a bit irrelevant.
What makes you think he would now?
I'm not convinced actually that he will. But my main point is that in the end, firstly, there's a couple of things that have happened. One, he has gone to the public in 2011 and he's been re-elected. So there's a bit of a general view that says, you know, you kind of clean the slate. So there's plenty of people that resign from a particular role and they say, I'm going to put that to the test and if I get a mandate, I've got a mandate. So to a certain degree he's got that, and if he wins a second time, he's certainly got it. The second thing is the argument about the issues of the Owen Glen donation, which was the basis of, we said, well, we need a bit of clarification before we can actually say we'll work with the guy. We're never getting answers to that. But the truth of it is, my son Max is going to vote in this election. He's a first-time voter. He was 12 when that debate happened. So in politics, things move a bit quicker than 6 years. So there is a degree of time. But the third issue really is, there were about 1 million people that voted for us last time. I suspect there'll be about 1 million that vote for us this time. If you go and ask those people, and the polls are sort of showing that, do you want National to work with New Zealand First if it means you can stop a Labour Greens government? The majority say yes. And I have to be, it's not a one-man party. What I might think or what I might want to do is touching, but actually it's about the million-odd people that want to see continuation of a centre-right government.
Would it be fair to say, just continuing on that line, would it be fair to say that it's not a one-man party, but in this particular case, as it has been before, the leader of the party is really the magnet for people's attention and vote?
Well, we live in a more presidential style of politics. There's no question about that. And that's true from the small parties to the big parties. But obviously, if you're the Prime Minister or the leader of the opposition, you do get a lot of profile over time. But, you know, in the end, when we actually ask people, because we do ask them in their polling, okay, well, what's the factor that's driving you to vote for the political party that you're voting for? We see those big issues up front, you know, the economy, law and order, health, education. Leadership's in there, but it is lower down. Now, I might happen to have a view that says, well, it should be higher up. I might take a personal perspective on it, but actually, interesting enough, you know, the economy, for instance, and health ranks above that.
Right. You would be aware, of course, that John Armstrong floated an idea about you and Winston Peters.
Yeah, I saw it.
So, question one. Is there any possibility that could happen? That you would surrender the Prime Ministership partway through, say 2/3 of the way through the next 3-year term, as a part of a deal to go into coalition?
Or to steal plagiarise a lovely turn of phrase I read in the paper yesterday, so I can't claim it as original, about as much chance as Amanda Knox holidaying in Italy. 0.
All right. So the obvious next question.
Nice line. I just wish I could claim it for myself.
The obvious next question is: if you win the election, you are the Prime Minister on the night of the election. Will you serve the next 3 years? Is it your intention? Will you promise to serve the next 3 years?
Well, yes, in so much that you can do that. I mean, the reality is that I'm first amongst equals. The National Party caucus determines that. But yes,
No. I'm asking, would you stay there if you had the choice? If it's your
Yes,
call,
that's
would you
my-
stay for
that's my
the
intention.
full 3 years?
Yep.
Which means that you would fight the following election.
Well, all of those things, are for another day, because in the end, you have to take one election at a time, and it becomes it's hard enough fighting the 2014 election rather than talking about the 2017 election, and I'd have to be sure I had the confidence of my ministers and all of that sort of stuff. But if you're asking me, am I committed for 3 years? Yes.
Would you want to serve 4 terms? Somebody asked that this morning.
Well,
They didn't ask, they actually demanded it.
okay, if you had asked me in 2008, privately, over a couple of Clevedon Hills Syrahs or a Pinot Noir, good wine apparently, don't drink 5 bottles at a time and do an interview, doesn't necessarily work well. But say hypothetically you did that, just hypothetically, I would have said, gosh, that seems an awfully long time. But when you're there, I don't know whether there's something seductive about the job or whatever it is, but when you're there, it goes really quickly. It goes a lot more quickly than I thought.
Something seductive. Is it a power thing?
No, I think it's the capacity to make change and actually see it rolling out. The funny thing is, I mean, you get a combination of slight exhaustion, because you're working, all hours of the godsend. Sometimes frustration because it's MMP, you can't do everything you want, and even if you can, you got to carry the public with you. But I must admit, I sort of sit there, the start of the 6th year, looking at all of this sort of change and say, okay, so the economy's getting back into surplus, the debt levels are much less than what they thought they would be, the country's growing, you've got HSBC, or whatever, calling us the rock star economy, crime's on a 30-year low. I can name all these things. And in my heart, I sit there and go, I reckon we've done a pretty good job. And there's something really energising about that.